When everything's going well, it's like a good night out with the first date. You never want it to end. You want a great answer, ask a great question. So I've always been very, very keen on understanding what was your shortfall? Where did you stop short? What could you have gained if? And I always ask those questions. No one becomes rich by writing a book. No one's ever gonna buy a house on the beach from writing a book. But they're gonna get that house on the beach from what that book leads them into. I fall over, I get up, I try this, it works, it doesn't. You know, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but quite impactful when necessary. So I looked at what was happening and the response I was getting, and I was realizing people aren't focusing on the basics. Now, I ride motorcycles. I used to do kickboxing when I was a kid. So anyone that does martial arts, anyone that plays golf, anyone that plays basketball, anyone that plays any sport, any musical instrument, how do you become brilliant? You focus on the basics.
There's a difference between a dream chaser and a dream catcher. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dream Catchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome. And when I tell you that you're in for a treat today, I know I might say that on a lot of episodes, but today's episode is a really special one for me. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Sims on the Dream Catchers podcast. And I've been waiting years to do this, even though Steve doesn't know it. Now, Steve's the guy you call if you want to do something that you don't think is possible. He's got people into the Vatican. He knows people like Jay Abraham. He can get people to show up to an event after sending him thousands of dollars, and they don't know the location, they don't know who the speakers are, and they don't know what they have to do other than what day they need to arrive in the city and what day they can leave the city. And so when I tell you this guy has influence, I'm not positioning or posturing to make him sound like somebody who's important. This guy actually is. And I think the thing that folks love most about Steve is just how authentic he is. Now, he's going to come across gruff. He looks like a big bad biker. You might not want to meet him in the alley. He's got the earring and or the ring in his eyebrow. But if you really get the chance to know him, you know that he loves Claire. You know that that's his wife. You know that Henry is one of the kindest young men that you'll ever meet. And that's a direct reflection of who his father is. And so for me, it's just a pleasure to have the opportunity to share Steve's story with you all today. So with that said, Steve, welcome to the Dream Catchers podcast, man.
I don't know how I can live up to that, but thank you very, very much.
Live up to it. It's who you are, man. So I open up these shows with a simple question. And the question is, so you had an exit?
Yeah, I did. And it was ugly and it was painful and I'm still paying for it. It was a funny thing. And we were talking about this earlier on. When everything's going well, it's like a good night out with the first date. You never want it to end. And then sometimes when you've been doing what you've been doing for a long time, you're kind of like now tied to it and shackled to it, and you can't see a way out. But then quite often you go, well, hang on a minute. What if I do leave? What happens on the other side? And that can actually be very, very, very scary. Luckily for me, by complete surprise, I was in a party. I spoke to this lady. I told her a few kind of little stories of shit that I'd got up to. Turned out she was one of the heads of Simon and Schuster, and they offered me a book deal. So for anyone out there trying to get a book deal, I'm sorry, I didn't work hard for it. I didn't write a proposal. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right story. But it changed my life because people loved the book, they loved the stories, and they wanted me to do other things, which for the first time gave me another door. Now, that gave me another door, but it also gave me one to close. I could then look at my old company, which was an old concierge firm for the richest, most powerful people in the planet. And I could go, great, I can shut that chapter. How do I sell it? Oh, anyone out there want to buy? And I did it wrong. I did it badly. I got I got a decent number on it. Not the kind of like, $400 million I'm going to retire to the sunset on a golden Harley kind of money. But I got a decent wedge. only to find out that I hadn't sold it properly. We hadn't done the financials properly for the IRS. So I got hit with a big tax fine. Then they went back and found some other fees. And it just ate through. But the pain of the exit. So I've often said that selling a company is something you probably have to do smarter than starting a company. And I learned all the ways to sell a company badly by not listening. And the dumb thing is, I know some of the best people in the planet that could have helped me, and I thought it was beneath them. And I've had Roland yell at me, going, "Why did you not call me?" And I'm sorry, Roland. I knew some wonderful people that could have actually saved me that pain. But the two elements of pain is, if you're going to sell a company, sell it properly. Okay, sell it right and do it right and get the advice, because it can bite you in the ass. It may look as though it's over, but something will crop up and bite you. And secondly, what next? Start doing the what if. What am I going to do? And as I say, luckily, I had another door open that was far more exciting for me to run down. So I could now sink my energy into that.
So you knew what your next was. I don't know that you were seeking it, but you said you
No.
were in the right place at the right time with the right story, and that turned into a book deal.
Yeah.
Now, book deals are pretty hard to come by, and a lot of folks struggle with selling books even if they do get a book deal.
Oh,
So
yeah.
tell me, how'd you make, and is this the Bluefish book? What's the name of the
Bluefishing.
book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first book was Bluefishing. So the whole story is that I literally went to and I know this will surprise you, but I was in this bar and I was drinking, and my wife was with me, and we started chatting with this girl and started telling her these funny stories. She said, "Oh, I forget what she said. I don't know. I don't remember what the first story was." But she said, "Oh, I've always been a fan of so and so." And I was like, "Oh, he's a great guy." And she was like, "You know him?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did this with him." "How did you?" And so I just started telling her stories, and she ran off and got this other woman, came back, and she went, "Tell him that story again." And I went, "All right, well, I did this and did that." And when they came back and they said, "We'd like to pursue you writing a book. Can you tell us more?" I realized then I had to do the one sheeters. I had to do the outline of what the book, and there I was lost. And the problem is, I was lost, but the good thing was I knew I was lost. And so I was able to look around my Rolodex and go, "Well, who do I know that's sold books?" And we were chatting about my boy the other earlier on, Jay Abraham, and we spoke. I said to Jay about, "Hey, I've got this. What should I do?" He gave me some advice. Spoke to Jason Gaynard. He introduced me to Tucker Max. Tucker and I, funny enough, had known each other, but not known what we did. You know. So when I said to Tucker, he's like, "Well, I'm your man." I'm like, "Okay." So he helped push it through. And funny enough, this is a story that not a lot of people know. Tucker wrote the review of what it was going to be and emailed it to me to send it in. So I did. I didn't even read what Tucker had written. I thought, why, if he knows what he's doing, why read it? So I forwarded it over. And so the story goes from Michelle from Simon and Schuster. So the story goes, she got my proposal the following morning when she came in and was reading it. And one of the other people that has a book through Simon and Schuster is another client and friend of mine, JJ Virgin. And JJ was phoning up Michelle and saying about something that she was going to be doing about a new up and coming book. And Michelle turned around and she said, "Oh, I know you do these weird and wacky adventures," because JJ was a client of mine. She said, "I've got this guy that we're talking to about doing a book. He does all these wacky and weird adventures for high, powerful. Have you heard?" And JJ turned around and she went, "That's my boy. That's Steve." And so Michelle actually contacted me and she went, "It's meant to be." And so she got the book. So yeah, it was a real weird way. But the first thing I did was I went around as many people as I knew and said, "What did you do right? What did you do wrong?" Because the real power is in the mistakes people make. You made $1 million. Good. What did you screw up that could have made that 1-5? You know? And you ask that and they were like, oh, yeah. And there's always those stories. So Jay always said many, many years ago, if you want a great answer, ask a great question. So I've always been very, very keen on understanding what was your shortfall? Where did you stop short? What could you have gained if? And I always ask those questions. So I got a load of this stuff. And I was very, very quick to know for a fact that no one becomes rich by writing a book. And it was Jay that actually said, no one's ever going to buy a house on the beach from writing a book, but they're going to get that house on the beach from what that book leads them into. And if you ever turn around and say, oh, there's never been a millionaire author ever. Okay. From one book, from a collection. Yes, but never from one book. You're always going to get that person turn around and go, that's bullshit. J.K. Rowling. J.K. got her money from making it into a movie, not from the book. So, you got to understand, first of all, what's this horse doing? Where's it going? What's going to happen? So I knew that having the book would make me an authority because it's the first word of, authority. So I knew I would become more credible for my story. I knew it may get me a couple of speaking gigs because I've got loads of stories. But where it would take me beyond that, I didn't know. But I was very, very quick, and I'm a very quick learner, and I'm a very quick observer. I started noticing people weren't doing the basics. Now, me and you have known each other for many years, okay? And I won't take any offense of that. I wouldn't be offended if you said that I wasn't the smartest person you knew. I'm me. I fall over, I get up, I try this, it works, it doesn't. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm quite impactful when necessary. So I looked at what was happening and the response I was getting, and I was realizing people aren't focusing on the basics. Now, I ride motorcycles. I used to do kickboxing when I was a kid. So anyone that does martial arts, anyone that plays golf, anyone that plays basketball, anyone that plays any sport, any musical instrument, how do you become brilliant? You focus on the basics time and time again. Focus on the swing, focus on the strum, focus on your stance, focus on the basics. Your ability will get better from that refinement. And I noticed that so many people were trying to invest 50 grand into a new funnel system, or they were trying to do this, like, if you enroll here, you get this watch. There was all these kind of like bribery moments going on within today's marketing. The people weren't focusing on becoming the solution rather than the sale. And so the book suddenly had people going, hey, we'd like you to speak here. Well, could you teach my marketing department how to market? Could you teach my branding company, they're one of the top 10 branding companies in New York, could you come up and spend a day with them on telling them how to do it? And I'm like, I'm rolling around with Ferrari, Tiffany, Piaget. I can drop names to the point of annoyance. I can embarrass a Kardashian with my names. And I'm in these rooms going, well, why are you doing that? What's wrong with this? And having people just getting to second guess themselves and to really try and understand why they were trying to make things complicated. And so without realizing, I went, oh, I know quite a bit about branding. I know quite a bit about marketing. I'll start on mine. So with Henry, we started Sims Media, and that took off. And of course, along the way, we've had a few things that we've tried that haven't worked. Speakeasies and Sims Distillery and a whole bunch of things that thankfully have. But I believe the power and the beauty is in those near misses, those things that didn't quite work, that you can go, oh, let's roll it into this. We've got all this education. Let's use it in this and just avoid the things that went south. So I've always been very quick to notice which way the ball's moving and then try and get in front of it.
So, oh man, there's so many places to go. Some people are like, "Where's this guy from?" So, where's the accent from?
Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. I'm from the very, very posh East London, which is not posh. If anyone's been there, you know it's not. So I'm from, as I always say jokingly, the shitty end of London. And we didn't have Instagram to work out whether or not people liked us or not. We got a punch in the nose. So I'm from that very simple. If you like me, great. If you don't, avoid me. That kind of very simple kind of understanding. That when you make a mistake, you own up to it. If you say you're going to do something, your word's your bond. I come from that kind of old school London. I don't want to say, gangster kind of mentality, but if you say you're going to do it, it's done. And it's that kind of thing. And I was raised on that. And I think sadly, a lot of us today, false promises, no one, oh yeah, but he didn't do it. Oh, well, he said he was going to do it. I'm sure he tried, but we let it go now.
Yeah.
And I think we should be held accountable. If someone promises to do something, you should be held accountable. And the dumb thing is, the people that do what they say they're going to do are revered like gods.
Mm.
We shouldn't be revered as gods. We should be the normals. If I say to you, hey, boy, you want this done? Yeah, I'll get it done by Tuesday. It should be done Monday night. And you shouldn't go, my God, Steve, I can't believe you did that. You should go, good, you did what you say you were going to do. It should be an expectation that we actually deliver what we say we're going to now. But sadly, we don't.
Yeah, and I watched people make all kinds of excuses for people
Oh,
not doing the thing. Um, and then we just let the person off the hook who made the promise, and so
oh, yeah, that's killing us.
it's a struggle for sure. So I got my Bluefishing book right here. I
Good
know
man.
you weren't expecting me to have one, but it was
No.
on the bookshelf behind me.
And I got my
So
other one. Go for
what
stupid
what is
here.
what hold on back up. Hold that back up. What's going on here? What is that?
Go for stupid. The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals is the book that came out last October.
All right, so tell me about that.
Well, I know you're an author, so you'll probably understand this. Writing a book is not easy. And it's kind of never finished. You have to kind of go, right, that chapter's gone as far as I need to get on with the next chapter. And so some people say that it's very cathartic. Some people say it's like a bad therapy session. For me, it was quite swings and slides. Because in order to be able to say, hey, you do this, you've got to know where that advice came from. And the advice usually comes from where it didn't go well at all. We tried launching a community a while back, probably spent about 150 grand on this thing. I think we got 3 clients out of it. I think that technical term of that was it was a flop. Um, and we're 150 grand upside down. Henry took it personally. That's my son. And we sat down and we scraped all of the knowledge out of that flop. Where did it go wrong? Well, the ads worked. Where was the funnel? The funnel worked. So we scraped out everything that did well, and then you get to see where it didn't go well. So we took all of that education, and then I think for about 8 grand, relaunched our community, Sims Distillery. And we took all of the education from the 150 grand flop, stuck 8K in adverts, and gained about 60 members. And we probably like trebled what we lost. So when we're going through the book, in order to be able to turn around and go, hey, you want to work with Elton John, you do this, you've got to have but how did you get there? And so it was very disturbing to me. So once I did that in the first book, Bluefishing, and it came out and it got received and people liked it and it got translated and bestseller, I think, in 7 different countries. It did remarkably well. And I started getting fan mail and letters and stuff like that in languages I couldn't read. And I'm like, well, I think it's fan mail. Maybe it's hate. Maybe it's a death threat. And I'm like, oh, look at this. Isn't this lovely? Maybe they're talking about annihilating me. But, I was very in awe of what this could be done. But I also said, I'm a one and done. I'm an author. Thank you very much. Good night. Never doing a book again. And then this little thing happened to me. You may have heard of it, called COVID. And all of a sudden, everyone got locked down. Now, I was incredibly violent the first night that COVID came across, because I had gone out to this new Mexican restaurant in LA and it was horrible. And I had a stomach ache and I was on the pot for like 3 days going. I was not in a good state. I hated this restaurant. So when I saw that, hey, LA's in COVID, we're shutting everything down, I'm thinking my final meal on earth was at this horrible Mexican restaurant, and I was very upset about it. But then as COVID started, I was like, well, okay, I've got all the time in the world now. We can't go out, we can't travel, we can't fly, we can't go to mastermind events, we can't do anything. I can work on my pitch. I can work on my speaking techniques. I can work on my website. I can work on my bikes. I can work on my garden. I can work on my relationships. I started utilizing that time because, as both me and you know, it's the one thing you can't buy from Amazon: time. But what I suddenly started getting flooded with was people on social networks. And I like social. It gives me an insight into quite often things I usually don't get to see, what people are valuing. It's a great indicator. I suddenly saw people go, well, I spent the whole of yesterday binge watching the entirety of The Sopranos. What else can I watch? And I'm thinking, you've been given this moment. You're never going to get it again. It's never been with us before. It shall probably never happen again. The entire planet has hit pause. And your solution to do something without time is to watch Sopranos. Now, this annoyed me. And I let it go for a little bit, but 6 months later, people were still whining and bitching and moaning. And it's all kind of like, oh, I can't connect. Oh, COVID, I can't communicate with my friends. I can't go down the gym. When that fat ass wasn't going to the gym before COVID. So it became this period of excuses. Now, we've got Zoom, FaceTime, StreamYard. We got so many ways to connect. I was literally writing a list going, right, over the next 3 days, I'm contacting all of these people. They weren't flying anywhere. They weren't at meetings. They weren't at work. They weren't at the golf course. Every single person I contacted and was like, hey, I'm sitting in the garage. Tucker, I want to FaceTime you and have a chat. Tucker was like, do it. I was like, Tucker, what are you up to? What are you focusing on during this time? And I was contacting everyone. Now, the funny thing was, I had a list of about 16 people that over the next 3 days I wanted to contact. How many of those 16 people do you think I managed to contact in those 3 days?
All
16 people, 3 days. How many of those people do you think I contacted?
All 16, because I know who you are.
7.
What?
Because once you got them on the phone, you're on the phone with them for 2 hours. You don't have time. They're not going anywhere. I have never spent so much time with these people because there was nothing else for them to do other than converse, And so those 16 people, they took me about 2.5 weeks to get through. And then I thought, I'm going to do it again. And I spent 2.5 years communicating like a ninja. And I was so pissed off with the way people were viewing the most precious time of our life, that I started, maybe not very subtly, but going on Facebook going, I can't understand, the tards out there that just want to binge watch everything on Netflix. I hope they never contact me. I can't understand why people are wasting time. It boggles my brain and I started getting these little nuggets of annoyance out into social. And someone said, because some of them would be like long paragraphs, some of them would be like one statement. And someone said, are you turning this into a book? And then halfway through COVID, I thought, maybe I should. And the reason I did was because I really thought at the time the problem was us today. I thought it was a generational thing because there was so much hatred, so much bitterness, so much sarcasm. Like there used to be a statement that said, what would you do today if you didn't have the fear of failing? Do you remember that? We've all heard that saying, okay?
Yeah.
There's a different one today, okay? Because as both me and you know, okay, the pair of us, we're serial fuck ups. We're serial failures. And it's from those failures that we've become refined, isn't it? You know, we welcome something not quite going right so we can tweak it to make it go right by tripling what it would have done before. So we look for those failures. We look for that education. But today, people are frightened to try things for fear of people laughing at them. You know, we're in a society today where we won't try anything just in case someone giggles, in case someone says something on my Instagram profile and it upsets me because they say I look fat in this black t-shirt. You know, we're fearful of that. And I thought to myself, have we morphed and developed into that society? So I started doing some research, thinking that today's problem was us, only to sadly realize that we've always been assholes. We've now just got social platforms that have given us greater platforms to be assholes on. And I realized that Henry Ford, and you probably heard this, Henry Ford had people petitioning against him making cars because they said their horses could run faster through the woods. You know, there were people that actually used to picket Edison against actually doing a light bulb. You know, people, look how much hatred Elon Musk got for buying Twitter. You know, we are very, very angry today. And so I suddenly started looking into this and seeing, why are we so hateful at each other? Why don't we go for ridiculous goals? Why do we fight to succeed at something rather than play to succeed? Let me give you an argument's sake. If I said to you, Jerome, what is your number one project that you would like to see achieved in like 8 years, and what is it? And you told me what it was, and I said, well, let's go for it, Jerome. Let's break through. Let's make sure that's fighting talk. And we're very fierce and we're very growly and we're very rigid. Well, anything rigid breaks. How long? And you're a big fella, but if you were in a street fight, this is a serious question. I'm actually going to ask you this question. It's not rhetorical. If you, God forbid, were in a street fight, how long would that street fight last?
Hey guys, as you might know, a very small percentage of the people who actually listen to this podcast are subscribers. So do us a favor, subscribe. In fact, we did some analytics and we found out that only 25% of the people who listen are subscribers. And our goal is to get that to about 75% over the next 3 months. So do us a favor, hit the subscribe button so you get notified when our new episodes come. We plan to bring immense value to you guys going forward as we continue to improve the content that we create at Dreamcatcher. Your dreams should be real. Let's get back to the show. I would love to say, and I don't know this is true, but I would love to say until I got out of it.
The fact is, and sadly, because I used to do a lot of fighting when I was younger, you know, kickboxing and stuff like that, but it's not Hollywood. You are not in a kickboxing fight for 30 minutes as you dance around the bloody room. It's like slap, punch, kicking in the nuts, and you're down. You know, if it lasts 1.5 minutes, that's a long fight. You know, most of the time, you two dancing around like fairies before the first one throws a punch. You know, if you think about boxing matches, and even MMA, they're 2 to 3 minutes long for trained athletes.
Yeah.
Do you have kids?
2.
How old are they?
12 and 14.
When they're playing games, how long do they play for?
All day.
We can play forever. There's no stopwatch on it. There's no clock. And anytime we're playing, anything that we do invigorates, excites, and we go further. You know, us playing constantly keeps us going. And we look for the next morphine or the next rush to go, oh, I want to do it again. But when we fight at anything, that's a short-term situation. So I realized that most of my life was a game to me. I like playing. Oh, I'm going to try this. You're telling me a bricklayer from East London can't hang around with the Pope? Oh, I don't know. Let's have a game with that. Let's see if I can, and that was always my mentality. And guess what? It happens. The more I play, the more I win. The more you fight, the more you get bruised and you can't last long. So I started looking around at who are the people that play. Your Oprah Winfrey's, your Bezos, probably the greatest person that gamifies absolutely everything, Elon Musk.
Mm.
And I realized that in today's world, we need to stop worrying about other people's views and opinions because they certainly are not going to be there to support us when we fall down. We need to start playing more, and we need to start using that thing called a dream. And we need to go for our dreams. You're not always going to get your dreams, but you're going to fall short and you're going to get something way in advance than if you'd have gone for something you try to achieve. And as I was doing this, the book kind of came about. And I released the book in October. Very proud. Again, went bestseller. It's in Polish, Indian, and I think Cantonese at the moment, or Mandarin. I don't know. I'd apologize for anyone that knows the difference. But one of those languages I can't speak. And so it's doing really well over there, but it's getting people to dare to go for ridiculous goals and just have fun with it and then be astonished that they've achieved it.
All right. You called yourself a bricklayer from East London.
Uh-huh.
And you hung out with the Pope. Like some of these
Yeah.
things don't. I mean, I remember sitting with you one day. I think we were having lunch. He's like, "Yeah, I ride motorcycles with him." We were talking about Keanu Reeves because I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get a statement. What do you think?" He's like, "Yeah, well, I ride motorcycles with him." So, how? I think everybody wants to build a network of people where they can, where in some respects, people are like, who are you? Like, how did you build the relationship? Like, how do you connect with people that most people would expect to be unattainable?
That's a fantastic question. So let's keep it as blunt and as direct as possible to help all the listeners. Most of the reason you don't connect with the people that you want to connect with is the fault of you. Um, and it's the way that you envisage the relationship. When when you get a phone call tonight at 9 o'clock, okay, to your home, and that phone rings, what's the one thing you can guarantee from the person that's phoning you? The one thing you can get. I don't care if it's an insurance salesman, whether it's your mum, your next door neighbor, me. What's the one thing you can guarantee when you pick that phone up?
They want something?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. They may want something like, can you come over for dinner this Sunday? Hey, can we get together to be on your podcast? Hey, just wanted to check you're okay. But they want something. If it's the insurance guy, he wants to sell you insurance. If it's your mum, she wants to know if she can make you your favorite dinner on Sunday. But they all want something, even if it's they want to give you something. But the fact that they put themselves out to come to you, you know they want something. In today's world, we're incredibly cynical. In today's world, we're filled with hatred and skepticism and cynicism. So when we've got that phone call going on, we're not just, the phone's ringing, they're going to want something. We are now, what do they want? How many times has the phone rang and you don't recognize the number and you go, yeah, you're all cynical, you're all skeptical, you don't know what's going on. And it's your best boy that's maybe using his mate's phone because his other one's run out of juice. And it's like, boy, are we going out for beer tonight or not? And you're like, oh, hey, how? But that first initial second, you were wary. And now we're getting so many scam calls now that we don't recognize them. We don't answer it, do we? So we're now in that kind of situation. But it means that anyone that you want to talk to, the first thing they're thinking is, what do you want? Now, knowing that, you need to make sure that you disarm them. Have you ever played the barbecue game? Have you ever
No,
heard me play it?
no.
All right, now you're probably going to win this. So I'm having a barbecue Saturday night and I say, Jerome, you're in the area, you got your family with you, come to my barbecue. And you say yes. What is the first question you ask me?
What do you want me to bring?
Can it get any better than that? But whenever you enter into a relationship, most people enter into the relationship as, can you endorse my book? Can you be an affiliate for my diet tablets? Can you help me get to XYZ? Can you scale my business? Can you do this? Can you help me? But how many times do we go to someone and go, hey, Jerome, thanks for taking the call. I was listening to your podcast, really liked it, but your microphone. I used this other microphone the other week and it is so incredibly precise. I can't help thinking it would add some kind of dynamic depth to your voice. Can I send you the link? I don't own the microphone, but I just used it and I thought it'd be good for your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what's
Add
your next?
value.
Bingo. And what happens when I add value to you?
I think it elevate. Reciprocity.
Every single time. Every single time, if you can walk in and have just this in your head, anyone listening, when you spark up a conversation, ask yourself, what can you bring to the party? You know, can you tell a joke? Can you ask questions about the guys or the girls' dreams of that business to get them to think about it? Can you be the solution to that? What can you bring to that moment that's going to make that person go, this person can stay at my party? You know, the amount of times I've done that barbecue game and people have gone, where is it? Oh, it's here at my house. This is the address. Okay. What's your next question? What food you serving? Will there be any celebrities? Can I take photographs? Can I bring a mate? What music you playing? What times you start? What times you fit? And these are all selfish questions for them. You've got to enter every single conversation. So here's a true story. I had this guy, I'm not very good in networking parties. You've already, and it was quite insulting actually, but you've already explained what I look like. So that was quite upsetting. But you've already said that I'm not too attractive and a bit scary, which was sad. But I don't like networking events, and based as well on my look, I don't do well at networking events because very few people come and approach me. Okay. Unless they're crazies like you. But I don't get a lot of people just wandering up to me going, hey, how are you? What are you doing? I very, very rarely get that. So whenever I go into an event, I need to, and we spoke about this briefly beforehand, I need to know what I'm getting out of that event. I need to know what's the point of me being at this event. There was this guy that was it still is, he's in Silicon Valley. He's one of the biggest seed investors. And he's got a big incubator firm. And I wanted to get into his circle. What's in it for me? I want to be in his circle. I want to be the person that he goes, hey, you need something, Sims. I wanted to be that person. All right. And I knew with all of this seed money growing up, I know there's nothing that people want to do more when they make money than spend it. You know, when you've been raised and you've got no money and all of a sudden you've got money, you want to go to Italy. You want to go to Japan. You want to go to London. You want to travel. You know, that's where I come in. And I also wanted to be in this area because I knew that it would be a sandpit of people that did things differently. And I love creative disruptors. So I wanted to be in that environment because I could get juiced up on that disruption, you know, and that creativity. I knew this guy was going to be at this gala. So I stamped out my credit card, bought a ticket to this gala, went along to this gala, and I'm stood at the corner of this bar before everyone goes in for dinner. And he's there holding court. A lot of people knew, since in San Francisco, a lot of people knew that, you know, he was a big wig and they knew who he was and he was quite bad. And he had a few kind of like, you know, minions hanging around him and people were coming up and, you know, giving him a handshake. Oh, it's good to see you. And I think his wife had something to do with the gala. And I had literally stalked the hell out of the guy to find out where he was going to be. So I'd gone there with purpose. It wasn't a chance. Hope is a really shit marketing strategy. I knew this guy was going to be there. So I went, I waited, and all of a sudden, people stopped coming up to him. So the initial kind of like people come. Now, when people start drinking again, they get going again. So I knew this was my period where people were still a little bit sober. It was early evening and it was my perfect time to strike. So I get my old fashioned in hand and I start walking to him. Now, as you've already pointed out, I'm 240 pounds of gorgeous. So when I'm walking towards this guy, he can see me coming at him. I'm not a wallflower. So this guy's looking at me. He's looking at his minions around him, which I think the whole lot of them together were maybe 250 pounds collectively. And they're kind of looking at me thinking, what's this guy doing? And I walk up to him. And the first thing I said, because he's now thinking, what is he thinking as I'm walking up?
What's this guy want? I think.
Bingo. Everyone, we had that with the phone call. Everyone is saying, what do you want? Everyone. So as I'm walking at him, he's looking at me and in his head, he's going, what does this guy want? And I walked up to him and I said, sorry for disturbing you. You don't know me, which always gets people to relaxed. Okay. But my name's Steve Sims and I happen to know that you're working on this project. Now, just as a fun little piece of activity in my office, we looked at your project and we used it as a case study to see where it could go wrong. And we found 3 concerns with its growth potential. Would you be open for me just sharing those with you?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what the guy did. Now, in truth, we found 2. Sure as shit couldn't find the 3rd because we didn't know much about the project. And people like things in 3s and 5s. So we had to so the 3rd one, you're going to love this one. So I said to him, the first one is, and whatever it was, I can't even remember what it was. I only remember now what the 3rd one was. But the first one I said, we were concerned about this. And I'm sure you and your team have already worked on this, but we were concerned that this, and this could lead to a bottleneck up here. Just wondered, and hey, if our findings would be of any interest for you, I can easily send them over to anyone here, Number 2, we found this, and we were wondering about. No, I hadn't done it with the team. I'd done it at home on the couch, just on the laptop, But he thought I had a team that were thinking about him when it was just me on a couch with an old fashioned. And so when it got to the 3rd one, we found I was messing around and I couldn't come up with anything. He had a certain shade of yellow. And so I went, I wonder, and I found out what the Pantone color of that yellow was. And I Googled that to find out in some kind of weird region of like either Africa or India, it stood for pain. This color, stood for pain. And I went, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the shade of yellow you're using in the country of so-and-so stands for pain. So if you were ever going to export your brand, that may not be the first. And all I've remembered ever since that was the 3rd color yellow. Okay. And I said to him, I hope that helps. And he looked at me. The next part of the story gets a bit upsetting. He looked at me and he started laughing at me. And I'm on about really laughing at me, tearing up, laughing at me. And I'm stood in front of him with me old fashioned. He's laughing. His minions are looking at him, laughing. So they start laughing at me. So I've got probably about 6 people laughing at me and people around looking at this famous powerhouse laughing at me, and I'm stood there going, well, this didn't go as planned. And I go to turn around, to walk off thinking, oh, well, in my head, I'd seen that gone better, And as I turned around, he grabs my shoulder. Okay. He puts his hand out and he grabs my shoulder. Now, I'm not a touchy-feely kind of guy, So not only is he laughing at me, but now he's touching me. Now this is going to go south real fast if something good doesn't happen. And he's like, no, please, 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 stop, stop. And he's trying to talk through the laughter, still with his bloody hand on my shoulder, which I tell you was the most uncomfortable thing. And he calms down and he said, what was your name? I said, Steve Sims. He said, you know the thing? We shut that project down 6 months ago. Shut it down. It's not even in existence within our company anymore. And do you know why? Because of what you could have answered with number 2. You don't know me, you don't know the project, and you gave me the solution in a bar where these people that have paid way too much fucking money couldn't come up with the solution. All of a sudden, they're not laughing.
They're not laughing anymore.
Not laughing at all. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going better now. And he said, so here's the thing. I have 3 other projects. I want to retain you. I want to send you those 3 projects, and I want you to give me your review. And I said, I'm going to read them as a simpleton. And if they can't make sense to me, and this is a Perry Belcher classic line, if it doesn't make sense to an 8-year-old, it doesn't make sense. So I said, I'll read it based on that, and I'll give you my opinion. And do you know I worked for him for about 5 years? Just on that.
Just from figuring out what he was working on, thinking about it when he didn't even know you were thinking about it, putting yourself in a position where you actually got a chance to talk to him, and then actually delivering value at a level higher than what the people who were supposed to be your favorite word, the experts, did.
Yeah, and it literally worked. And I literally, we went over to the bar and he brought one of the guys over and we swapped details. And I got to admit, I went home so over the moon. I didn't stay for the gala. I went home so over the moon, I thought to myself, he's going to forget, you know. And no, the following day, his legal team sent me a letter of retention. And, you know, within, I think, 72 hours, I was signed up and a retainer was paid. Yeah, it was incredible. But the point is, in everything you do today, and again, I can name drop the work I've done with Andrea Bocelli, with Elton John, with Elon Musk, every single time, every single relationship that I've been involved in, every single corporation, company, brand, I walked in with, what can I bring to the party? And that's a simple golden rule. Now, here's the thing to follow up on that. It's 2:00 in the morning and you've got a raging headache, and you go to your bathroom cabinet, you open up the cabinet, and there's a tablet box in there for headache tablets. Do you care what the logo looks like? Do you care what the brand is? Do you care about the packaging? You care about the packaging on a Cartier ring, you know, but you don't care about the packaging on a box of headache tablets. Why? Because you just want them to do the job. And when something can be the solution to your pain, you don't care what it looks like. And I picked up on that one very early on, because you're right. I'm the guy turning up on a motorcycle, parking in the VIP parking spaces, walking into the head of the company and throwing my crash helmet on the desk and going, right, so what are we going to do to get this fixed? I'm your solution. You ain't going to date me. You ain't going to take me to the prom. I'm the solution to your problem. And all the time you show up with value and intent to be that solution, your accent, your weight, your looks, your hairstyle, you know, any of that, none of that matters. None of it.
None of it matters when the pain is intense enough. None of it matters when you got a problem and you don't know how to solve it. None of it matters when the stakes are high enough. And you've been able to put yourself in those places and spaces where most people would be hesitant, right? You said they're uncomfortable approaching you, and maybe even more uncomfortable with you walking up to them. I don't know. I found you very approachable, but I get it. This
Yeah,
is
but you're
phenomenal.
you're that character that wanted to bring something to the party. You know, when you find yourself to be that character that wants to get into a connection, you look for them. You know, most of the problem comes when people assume, oh, he's going to be scary. Oh, he's not going to want to talk to me. Oh, he's too important to want to spend any time with me. You're answering your own insufficiencies. You know, it's just ridiculous. You know, so that's why me and you have a conversation. That's why me and you get on. And that's why most people will avoid me in a bar. And I'm quite happy about that.
So, where did the confidence come from, though, Steve? Because most
Oh,
people don't have it because of whatever their class is or whatever their experience has been.
yeah. I think confidence is a myth. Um, and of course I had it. You know, I grew up going, "Oh my god, I'm gonna meet him. Oh my god, he's the king of something. Oh my god, how am I woke up with those, you know, and I had those kind of things. And then I would always break it down. But why am I there? Why am I in that room? You know, why have I been invited and not him? Well, it's because I've got the headache tablet. I am the solution to your pain, you know? Oh, okay then what do I focus on? I don't focus on whether or not I'm wearing the most expensive watch in the planet. I focus on whether or not I'm the solution to your pain. And that's how I've led my life since being in my 20s. And of course, in your 20s, my God, you know, back and forwards on the confidence monitor. Oh my God, I'm going to meet that superstar until you meet him and you go, huh. And we spoke about that earlier. Um, and then when you start getting into your 30s and 40s and go, well, what's important? Going home and hugging the wife. You know, going out for a nice Italian meal, drinking an entire bottle of wine and really not caring about what it does to your head the following day, you know? And all of a sudden people start going, oh, look at him. He's so confident. No, he's just changed what he focuses on. I think confidence is a barometer on what's important to you, you know? And the lack of confidence is, am I smart enough? Do I look thin enough? Am I pretty enough? All of those kind of things. When you take that away and you go, what's important? You're feeding your family, you're standing up to you, you know, you are you, and there's no apology necessary. When you start kind of like focusing on what's important, people actually wrap it up with, you know, he's confident. No, he's just refined what's important to him and what he's going to focus on. Some people say that I don't care. You know, oh, the way you don't care about this and you don't care about that. No, no, no. That again is completely wrong. I care so much, I know what to care on. You know, I'm going to focus on those people that I can create a disruption. I'm going to challenge the way you do business and you think about your communications and the ROI of that relationship. I'm going to challenge that to maximize it. But if you're one of those people that I feel is not going to pick up on that information and more importantly, not going to action it, I'm not even going to see you in my rearview mirror. You don't exist to me. And so while people go, oh, look at him, he's so arrogant. No, I'm focusing on what I can help, what I can create impact with. So I'm very selfish. I said to you this before. I'm very selfish with where I spend my time, my energy, and my focus and direction. And people want to call it confidence, that's fine. But I think it's very similar to a unicorn with three blue testicles. I don't think it exists.
Oh my God. All right. So, Steve, I mean, the stories have just been intriguing. The experience is second to none. I'm sure the listeners want to find out more about you and how they can engage with you. So, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, if you want to do it, one of the only social platforms that my son actually allows me to respond on is Instagram, Steve D Sims, D for dashing and only one M in Sims. But you can go to stevedsims.com. I will give you something for free. I held up this book earlier, Go for Stupid. If you visit goforstupid.com, when I did the audio version of my book, and I don't know if you did an audio version of yours, did you?
Mhm.
Right, standing in an audio booth is painful, isn't it? It's
It-
horrible. So what I did was, being in the fact that I'm in LA, a friend of mine had a film studio. So I actually read my entire book, all chapters in a film studio And we ended up with like 12 chapters on video. And so then what we did was we just spliced them together. And if you go to goforstupid.com for free, you can actually watch me read my book to you. So you get it for free of charge. How's that?
That's phenomenal. I'm going to go get my copy right now.
There you go. Goforstupid.com.
All right. Steve, you are a dream catcher. You're the epitome of people breaking down barriers and creating evidence that the dream should be real. I appreciate you sharing pieces of your journey with the listeners and myself today. I think they got to see a side of you that most of them won't ever get to see because they probably won't have the ability to get close enough to you to hear these stories. And I know all of them aren't in the presentations that you do from the stage. So I'm really grateful for you sharing what you've been able to experience because it's definitely a unique and engaging one. And I think it's probably aspirational for a lot of people as well. To the listeners, your dreams should be real. We'll catch you on the next episode.